on steps, or your private parts may be exposed. Exodus 20, verse 26. If you buy a Hebrew servant, he is to serve you for 6 years, but in the seventh he will go free. If he comes alone, he is to go free alone. If he has a wife when he comes, she is to go with him. If his master gives him a wife and she bears him sons and daughters, the woman and her children shall belong to her master, and only the man shall go free. Exodus 21, 2 through 4. Anyone who curses their father or mother is to be put to death. Watch out. Exodus 21, verse 17. Whoever sacrifices to any god other than the Lord must be destroyed. Exodus 22, verse 20. And do not offer the blood of a sacrifice to me along with anything containing yeast. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. Exodus 23, 18 and 19. Each of those verses are a part of the section of Exodus that focuses on the religious law, the words written that govern this ancient society. And this list of laws and rules have been discovered to be a part of the ancient world extending far beyond Israel. In fact, some of the law codes that have been found from surrounding cultures and people groups hold similar elements. So the establishment of the law is not unusual. The format of the law that we read about in Exodus and see repeated and expanded upon in Deuteronomy and Leviticus are written with a very specific type of legal relationship in mind, where a king chooses to offer protection and care for a group of people, their vassal, with the expectation that they in turn will be obedient followers. Within the Exodus and throughout the Bible, we see that the law is directly connected to the narrative of what is happening around them. Sorry, I think we're getting, let me see if moving this might help. Maybe we're too close together. Let's see, is that better? It's getting, all right. So within the Exodus and throughout the Bible, we see that the law is directly connected to the narrative of what's happening around them. These are not intended to be the gateway to God, but rather are a picture of God's role in Israel and the guidelines required to govern and set up their society. And the most famous of the law is what we just read, the 10 Commandments, or better described as the 10 words from God to the people. Only worship one God, don't steal, kill, or covet. All words that every few years someone wonders if they should not be posted up into some kind of space, some kind of courtroom or classroom. After all, it seems so cut and dry, and it feels like it would correct every moral failing around us if we would just follow the 10 Commandments and adopt it as our own. But what happens when these 10 words are then lined up with the rest of the law? Indeed, it does kind of seem that murder isn't that bad. After all, it's allowed for various reasons as punishment. And then there's the Sabbath. To rest on the Sabbath means absolute stillness to one group, and to others it includes enjoyment and recreation that forces others to work. What about stealing? Can we steal if the end justifies the means? Is stealing wrong if it's something that is stealing such a faux pas, something that it can equally be attributed as wrong to participate in the forceful taking of land, of cultures, of identities, or the taking of valuables from someone who's your enemy, or the taking of infrastructures and resources that others require so that we can use them? For generations, scholars and rabbis, ministers, and lay people have been curious about what it all means. If these 10 words should be put into practice and how it should form our practice as we attempt to figure out its relevance. And that's where we are reminded that these are ancient texts written, I think there's a lot of feedback. I'm going to try this instead. Is that okay? Sorry. I restart. There, that's better. So for a long time, people have been curious about what it all means, if these 10 words should be put into practice, and how it should form our practice, as we attempt to figure out its relevance. And we are reminded that these are ancient texts written for ancient people from their perspectives. And in 2024, we lack all of the required information for us to simply implement this into our culture on a one-to-one scale. Yet equally, we don't want to throw it all away and consider it useless. So what if there is something here? Perhaps something more than what we initially catch. Can the 10 Commandments both be a part of the ancient law code written for an ancient people and their society, and a modern invitation to the church to better understand what God is like? So in order to answer that question, we are going to take ourselves from those wandering in the wilderness, and we're going to go all the way ahead. We're going to jump ahead several centuries, and we're going to jump ahead to just after what we call Palm Sunday, the days after Jesus enters Jerusalem. And so in those days following Palm Sunday, Jesus turns over the tables in the temple, declaring it essential that we make the kingdom of God accessible to all. Then Jesus later performs a strange miracle where a fig tree dies, and then he returns to the temple. And it's here that the religious leaders and powerhouses of the day, they have some questions. Now, the first question is a good one. Who are you to do such things? And the answers that Jesus gives them always kind of border on being offensive. And the more they ask, the more it becomes clear that Jesus is minimizing their brand of religiosity and somehow praising those who have chosen to live lives that seem opposite to how they understood what a life connected to God should be. And so with each answer, the leaders increase in anger and fury because they want Jesus to affirm the law as they understand it to be. Their questions are not because they're looking for new answers, but rather they simply want Jesus to confirm that they are right. They sound just like me. So with this in mind, they continue their questions. Is it right to pay taxes to Caesar? Will there be marriage in heaven? All which lead to the question that they actually want to answer. Because up until now, it just doesn't seem that Jesus is taking the law very seriously. His interpretations seem to suggest that their interpretations and their religious perspectives lack value. And heavens forbid that their perspectives just might be wrong. But when you're entrenched in a way of being, when you really want what you believe to be proved correct, and you want your ideas confirmed rather than challenged, it is essential that you villainize the one who challenges you. So they come up with a question they are certain that Jesus will falter on, fail at, and lead them. And so they want to be sure that they remain the superior keepers and teachers and interpreters of the religious law. And so they ask this revolutionary question. What is the greatest commandment? Now, it's a good question. In fact, it remains the same question that people are asking today, whether through politics or religion, family dynamics, power structures, hierarchies, economies, allegiances, and alliances. What we excuse and what we rise up against. Each of these seek to answer the question, what is the greatest commandment? And each provide radically different versions of the answer. Some might say that the answer is do not murder, except for the caveats because, sometimes we want to allow for it. Others insist it's keeping the Sabbath, as we, whoever we are, decide it should be kept. Some say that the greatest commandment is don't lie, with our inserted exceptions, of course, and still some refer to adultery as the greatest commandment, and others would say that it's have no other gods, when what we actually mean is no other gods than the ones we approve. Do not covet, except when it provides you big financial gain. No other idols other than the ones we build ourselves. And depending on the day, we have a different response to this age-old question, with the hope that the answer will be the one that moves ahead our own personal initiatives and agendas. But Jesus does not answer the question with, yes, command 1 or 3 or 6. Instead, he says this: the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it: love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these 2 commandments. Listen closely. No other gods before me, no idols. Do not misuse the name of God. Remember the Sabbath. Honor your father and mother. Do not murder, commit adultery, steal, lie, or want what others have. Love God and love others. And to take it one step further, how we interpret one is how we interpret the other. In other words, what we think it means to love God is in direct correlation to what we think it means to love others. Love God, love your neighbor. So, what does that look like? In a world where there are a million things to worship and thousands of things to give our life to and our energy and our being, God invites us to be singularly focused so that goodness can be multiplied. Loving God is not the end, nor is loving others the end, but both work in tandem and are a means to connect with each other. And today we consider that greatest command through the lens of the 10 Commandments and discover the call to love God is evident in the first 4 of 10. No other gods, no idols, don't attach my name to that which is not me, and the Sabbath. Take a day to pause and put aside work. Now, all of this seems easy. I don't have any idols in my backyard. I have no handmade gods or goddesses that I turn to when I need help. I don't have any other gods. But if we learn nothing else from what happens around us over and over again, may it be that we know that idols are made of stone, but idols are also made of ideas. That idols are made of wood, but idols are also made of ideology. Idols are made of metal and painted objects surrounded by offerings and sacrifices, but idols are also made of power and control, supremacy and exceptionalism. Man, you guys are very quiet. Or maybe it just doesn't sound, okay, maybe it's only good for me. I'll keep it. I'll start in time. You guys are really quiet today. Idols, gods that we put ahead of God. They are everywhere. And sometimes we get so distracted and enthused by these idols that we have made that we begin to falsely insist that these objects and mentalities and ideas are actually the handiwork of God. We announce with vigor, is it not God who called us to be the powerful who lord power over others? Did God not tell us that it is in conquering that we demonstrate God's glory? Did God not tell us that borders, the imaginary lines of boundary between us and them, were set by God and not man? Did God not tell us to worship the ideals found in dominance, patriarchy, and paternalism? Is that not also equated with God? And we so easily create the image of God as we define it to be, and then spend so much time denying our allegiance to idolatry that we lose sight of the ways that the idols are looming large in us, around us, and because of us. But God, in their wisdom, understands this one thing to be true. The hardest thing is not to build an idol. The most difficult thing is to tear it down. And so God in their wisdom says, don't even set it up. But there's more. Don't misuse the name of God. What we always insisted was connected to saying, Jesus Christ, as an exclamation, or oh my God, out of frustration, which has plagued small children for centuries. But what if we were to take those words more seriously and suggest that we should not use God's name lightly? What if we were to suggest that we shouldn't use God's name to endorse or support or objectify those things, those ways of being and seeing that God neither supports, endorses, or delights in? What if we saw using the Lord's name in vain to mean we don't say that God told me when God said no such thing? What if we saw using the Lord's name in vain to mean we don't say God sanctioned this when the God revealed to us in Jesus explicitly speaks in the opposite direction? What if we saw using the Lord's name in vain to mean we don't align God's name with acts of evil and with the draw of dominance, with the will of selfishness? What might change if we saw even the ways in which we use the name of God to be part of our expression of our love for God? But none of this comes easily, and none of it comes naturally. And so this call to love God, which is intended to be all-encompassing, includes this invitation. Pause. Put into place rhythms of rest and Sabbath, a weekly routine that reminds us that we are in relationship with a God who says there is enough. A God who says I can be trusted. A God who says I am present. This pause and reset is intended to turn our attention back to love. A deep, forming, life-changing, transformative love of God, so that we can reclaim this same love of God from the theoretical and the philosophical, the ideological, the academic, and the scholarly into the lived reality, where our ideas about God and what God is like and the ways God moves in the world through us and around us are translated into how we see and respond and love our neighbors. So what is the greatest commandment? Love God with all of your heart and soul and strength, because this is intended to shape and refine and transform how we love those around us. The 10 Commandments could summarize this love of others like this. Treat those around you, from your parents to strangers, to those who have wronged you, to those who are far different from you, those who are easy to isolate, exclude, ignore, and overlook, or who are closest to you. Treat them all as God treats you. One who holds the image of God within them and learns to live apart from a scarcity mindset and comes to see that there is enough for you and there is enough for those around you. Let abundance and contentment guide the way that you engage those who are your neighbors. These two things come to life in the Gospels, in Jesus' teachings and actions. For it is he who says, don't allow your dogma and your doctrine to keep you from offering wholeness and healing. When you look out and see that they are hungry, feed them. Consider mercy to be a way of life, for give in abundance and recognize that even you are worthy to receive grace. Even when justified, don't throw stones, offer judgment, or participate in harm. Make space for children. In fact, choose to learn from them. Make it a practice to include those you are tempted to exclude. Remember, the kingdom of God is for all people. Don't make it difficult for anyone to enter. And as much as possible and as often as you can, participate in the care of the least of these, providing for those who lack, dissolving the power of poverty and oppression and classism, and help enact the liberation of others. For it is there that you too will find yourself made free. The 10 Commandments offer us a new way to live. Love God and love your neighbor. This was in direct response to all of the things that they would have heard from the Pharaoh, where they would have heard that it's all about the gods of Egypt and about oppressing your neighbor. In a world that desperately wants to equate the story of God found in the scriptures and God themselves with hate, with the shortening of tables, the rise of power, and the disenfranchisement of others for the rise of self. In a world that says there is not enough for us all, and so we use God as a means to justify our taking and hoarding, maligning and mistreating, may we be the courageous ones. May we be the courageous ones who point away from the distraction of it all and the lies that we so easily believe and tell, so that all people can discover the beauty found in the law of love. And ask the worship team to come up. Love God with all of your heart and your soul and your strength, with all of your mind, with everything that is you. Allow that to be what transforms you. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself, because all of us are created for liberation. So I think, we often talk about how Jesus has come to, not to abolish the law, but to fulfill the law. We talk about that a lot. And we also have, the great news in Galatians where we are no longer under the law. And so I see this invitation from Jesus as he helps us to reframe our thinking from do's and don'ts into a way of living that stems from transformation and leaves those around us in a better place and in a better way, where the Word of God, Christ, comes to live within us, and then as we go out into the world, we bring that same message and goodness and truth and light and love to those around us. And we do those things as we love God and love our neighbors. And so this week, I invite you to be courageous. I invite you to be courageous to find new ways to understand that deep love of God, to form it, to fashion it, to lean into it, and also to hear how the Spirit leads you to love your neighbors, those beside you, those far from you, those right in your vicinity, and those you may never meet. Have a blessed week.